I'm the Junior Vice Commander at Post 1503, and I want to welcome you on behalf of Thomas Williams, who is our Post Commander. And as some of you may know, some of you may not know, but this week was a national convention, so our Post Commander and our Senior Vice Commander are both out in Kansas City and probably back on their way and probably not missing all this heavy torrential rain tonight. A little about myself, I'm a 30-year veteran, former captain of the United States Navy. So I joined this post 4 years ago, so I'm happy to be here. And I want to definitely welcome you guys here for this Virginia Veterans Town Hall. And I met some of your senators and your delegates and so forth, so I think it'll be a very informative evening for you. So I know you have lots of questions to ask out. Special shout out to the Post Commander 247, Joanne Smoot, who is also here. Welcome to you. Also, I can make sure we acknowledge all our post commanders or members that are officers at various posts throughout the state of Virginia. Okay. So welcome.
All right, thank you so much. Delegate Guzman is co-hosting along with the rest of the delegation. So.
Good evening, everyone. As it was said, I am Elizabeth Guzman. I represent the 31st District, which includes parts of Prince William and Fauquier County. We're actually right now in the 31st District, so welcome everyone to my district. This idea of the Prince William County delegation came about because while we were in Richmond, we were have meetings with the Virginia Department of Veteran Affairs, and they were so informative. They were doing great things. And we had this idea about asking them, what about if you could come to Prince William County and explain about all of these great things that you do, mainly because we host in Prince William County at least 40,000 veteran families right here in Prince William County, from which at least we have 4,000 veterans who are business owners. And that doesn't even include the active duty military families that we have here in Prince William County that we are so proud to represent. So thank you everyone to make time to come tonight, and we're gonna go ahead and start with introductions.
Hi, I'm George Barker, State Senator. I represent the northern part of Prince William County between the town of Occoquan and the cities of Manassas and National Park and going out to Route 28. Great to see a great turnout here despite the weather, and I look forward to learning from you and also making sure that you learn from us as well. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Delegate Torian. I represent the 52nd District, which consists of most of the eastern part of the county, portions of Occoquan, Woodbridge, Dale City, and the Dumfries Triangle area, 52nd District. Thank you for being here.
Hi, good evening. I am Delegate Hala, Ayala, representing the 51st. I share a little bit of, or touch the district there in the Occoquan, but Lake Ridge, Manassas, and one precinct in Dale City. So if you're from Carrydale, you're in my house. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everyone. My name is Danica. I'm proudly the delegate representing the people of the 13th District of the Virginia House of Delegates, which includes Haymarket, Gainesville, the city of Manassas Park in its entirety, as well as my lifelong home in Manassas. My top veteran/active duty issue that I'm going to be really focusing on is increasing mass transit from the 13th District out to the Pentagon, out into that kind of Roslyn, Arlington, Alexandria, northern Fairfax, and even into Washington, D.C. Corridor by dealing a lot with the PRTC. And so for those of you who, if anyone here came to my town hall last night, my transportation town hall out in Haymarket, we discussed a lot of that, and anything that you have to deal with transportation issues, if you are active duty or a veteran, please feel free to talk to me about it. That's what I really love to do, and I want to make sure that you have the quickest commute to your job or to your post or to wherever it is that you're going, and the safest one possible. Thank you.
And I'm Delegate Lee Carter of the 50th District. I'm a 5-year veteran of the Marine Corps. You can kind of play spot the enlisted man here because I'm the one not wearing a tie. I deployed twice with the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, once on the USS Baton, did a med float, second time on the USS Carter Hall, went down to Haiti after the earthquake. My district is basically Bristow and the city of Manassas, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Delegate. I represent the 29th District, just to follow, which is Woodbridge out to Manassas, so basically 95 to 66, in between Prince William Parkway and 234. It's my honor and privilege to serve.
and introducing our guest speaker today. I'm honored to serve. We have a joint Military and Veterans Caucus in the General Assembly, and we help to track legislation during session that is important to veterans. And it's a wide array of things, like the new facility, the Puller Center coming up in Fauquier, down to different, very specific issues. Also honored to serve on the Virginia War Memorial Board, where I get to work and see our next speaker. And with that, I'd love to introduce our Deputy Secretary of Veteran and Defense Affairs in Virginia, who served under 2 governors now, Jaime Arrezago Soto. And he's been just a great pleasure to work with. I know all of our delegation. He's hand in hand working with us every day on different issues that come up. And thank you so much for making the treacherous drive up to join us. So thank you so much. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Senator, Madam Delegates, Mr. Delegates, Mr. Senator, citizens of Prince William and veterans, I'm so glad to be here on behalf of Governor Northam, a veteran himself, an Army veteran who served as a doctor in the Army, and on behalf of Secretary Hopkins and the Deputy Secretary serving each of you in Richmond day in and day out. The Governor and the General Assembly have been really all into making Virginia the most military-friendly and veteran-friendly state in the nation. And you would say, well, what does that mean? And what it means is we are looking from top to bottom, from left to right, on all issues. How can we best serve the veteran, the military service member, and the military families? And it's just been an honor for me to serve under the McAuliffe administration and now under the Northam administration, because in Richmond we have great representatives. I know they're behind me here, but it really shows that our presence in Virginia is valued. It could be because of the history that the military has in our great Commonwealth. It could be because of the great work that veterans do in our society or in our economy. It could be just because we have great leaders and they get the fact of what the veteran and the military member brings to our communities. So that work, which under the last administration was led by Admiral Harvey, and I was his deputy, and then in this administration is Secretary Carlos Hopkins, who, like me, is an Army JAG. We're both serving in the National Guard as JAGs. We have looked at every area. So I will give you a very quick, I am so thankful to have all the members here that I'll introduce shortly, that we have, most of you should have had in your chair, kind of like a one-pager that summarizes the work that with each of these members and in Richmond, the VSOs have been able to implement in Virginia. So we have a Department of Veteran Services that has 6 lines of businesses, okay? First line of business is a line of business that we call VEET, and you'll see it in your handout, okay? And VEET is education, training, and employment. So it starts from, and now I'm looking at the V side. Let me just very quickly let you know that we have an agency that takes care of veterans, but we at the Secretariat take care of veterans and defense. And that defense looks at the service members. We have 30 large military installations throughout the Commonwealth. So we are working with those commanders. Colonel Murray just left Quantico as a commander in Quantico. So we are dealing with this active duties, with their needs. We are looking at military children. That's a key issue for us, and we've done a lot in that area. And then when you're transitioning out, that's where DVS comes in, and the Department of Veteran Services at the state level, okay? We all know that there's the famous VA, not the Great Virginia, but the Great VA or Veterans Administration. So the VA is at the federal level. We come in to fill in a lot of holes and to make sure that that VA is as accountable to you as they need to be, okay? So when you become a veteran, we're going to look at your transition. So we've been going into those TAP programs and making sure that those TAP programs are already in contact with our VET officers in our agency, our VTAP, Transition Assistance Program, which are helping our members, our transitioning members, because we want every veteran to stay here in the Commonwealth. Number two, we're going to help you get get employment. And there's a great program that by now has resulted in more than 35,400 jobs. And Governor Northam has committed to making sure that during his administration, we ensure that 35,000 more jobs are created under the Virginia Values Veterans Program. And the V3 program, it's a program where the companies get a training from DVS on how, to understand our lingo. We're veterans, the SOP, the DD-214, he was a CO, and people are like, what is CO? Well, if you're not in the military, you don't get that. So we have been working with the HR offices of employers to let them know that when you say you were a platoon leader or a first sergeant, what that means and how important it is, that experience can be translated to the civilian workforce. So that's the V3 program, and you'll see the statistics here in the handout that we prepared. We also work with education. Virginia is the #1 recipient of GI Bill, post 9/11 GI Bill and GI Bill beneficiaries. That is great for our universities like George Mason. It's great for our students because we want those veterans to go get themselves trained and stay here. It helps our whole economy and it helps our veterans. So that's education. I told you about the first one. The second one is really a gem area, and I'm so glad that we have a VSR here today. I'm from BVFS. Where is Ms. Pickard? Back there, you can stand up. So she is a veteran service representative, and her job is to serve, and her position is funded by the budget that these members have adopted. So here we are on FY19, and thanks to their budget, we continue to grow the benefits division. 10 years ago, we had 15 offices of benefits. By now, we're surpassing 30. We're getting ready to open. So good that you mentioned the Pentagon, Madam Delegate, because we're just getting ready to open a DVS benefits office in the Pentagon. Okay? And these are, and I take them against anybody, these are the best trained, best customer service, veteran service representative to make sure you get the benefits that you deserve. We bring back to Virginia over $3 billion in veterans benefits a year. And they are going over those claims. We even have attorneys to appeal those claims on the benefit side. Virginia, first, and until very recently, the only state that had that whole system computerized. They can go on the computer and they can see what the VA sees. No other state can do that. We do it faster and better than any other state. So I've told you about education, training, and employment. I've told you about benefits. Okay? We have some veterans that have challenges. We know that. Transition, we grew up seeing the Vietnam veteran going through a lot of challenges. So we have a division that is called the Virginia Veterans and Family Support. And that Virginia Veteran and Family Support is like our social services arm. They are great. They are dealing with those veterans that are challenged, whether it's financially, whether it is emotionally, whether it is PTSD, whether it's TBI. That's the area of the social service. And BVFS led an initiative that is also very unique in the nation. Virginia is the first, and until very recently, only one of three now, but the only large state that has been certified by the U.S. Council on Homelessness to functionally end veteran homelessness. And I want to thank every member of the General Assembly because through their initiatives, we have all those BVFS employees now being employed by our agency, and in working with the Department of Labor and with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, we are able to get vouchers from the federal government that we are able to use. Can you believe in 4 years, we've housed more than 4,000 veterans in the Commonwealth of Virginia through that voucher. I've told you about education, benefits, and I've told you about VBFS. Fourth one, which is health. So let's talk about health, because this is a key issue in which the feds run the medical centers. And you all have heard the news about the wait times and the challenges. But we work very actively with the delegation, we work very actively with the federal delegation, and we attack those issues head first. I remember being with Senator Warner in the Hampton VAMC facing this issue of the wait times. Okay? So what you should all know is we're getting a 370,000 square foot health center in the Fredericksburg area. That will be the largest health center, not medical center, the largest health center in the nation, coming right here close to you guys at Fredericksburg. Okay? So that is important because here in Virginia, we have one VAMC in Hampton, we have another one in Salem, and we have another one in Richmond. And then many of you, if you do your 40 miles, might have to go to Northeast Washington, D.C. to go get treated. So now you will be able to use that health center right here in Fredericksburg for your health treatment at that VA facility. At the state level, we have long-term health care facilities. You know, kind of like, I guess you will call it a state home care, assisted living facility. And we had two in Virginia. We had one in Salem and we had one in Richmond. So once again, where are our veterans? When I talk to these representatives of yours, they say, yes, but remember the veterans are in Northern Virginia and in the Tidewater. Okay, so that has led members of the General Assembly working in tandem. We had a request for funding because those assisted living facilities are paid 65% by the feds. So we had two requests for two large ones. And when we came into office, Admiral Harvey said, Jaime, this thing is stuck, how can we untie it? So we started looking at it, and we realized that we were asking for 240 beds, and that the regulation at the federal level assumes that those beds are already in your portfolio before you get funded. So through some creativity and working hard and working well with the General Assembly, they had given us $66 million for those two large facilities. We realized, and the feds were not funding anything. We realized that we could do two 120-bed facilities. We could build one just with state funding, just with the budget adopted by your delegation, by your General Assembly. And we went over and spoke to the General Assembly. And they were so wise that they said, you know what, we'll give you the other 33 million, so you have $100 million to build two state home facilities. And we'll keep the IOU to get the federal money later on. And that's how this Commonwealth, for all I know, is the only state that is building two state facilities on state funding to start. And we selected in Vint Hill, here in Fauquier County, we're building a 128 long-term health care facility for veterans, and another one in Virginia Beach. So kudos to you all for that job too. And some good news. Finally, in the last budget that just passed, the funding for the state care facilities is being done by the feds, so we're getting $65 million from them in the near future. For that money that the leadership here decided to go ahead and do it in advance. So I've told you about health, I've told you about education, told you about social services, I've told you about employment. And now let me tell you that there is a great war memorial in this state. I know it's in Richmond, but that is also in the agency. So that is a great, and we're expanding the war memorial in Richmond. Okay, so any teachers here, anybody that wants to see the history of Virginians at war, come visit the war memorial in Richmond. Okay, so I have 5. I know I'm missing one line of business, and it is cemeteries. Good. I guess none of us want to speak about that, but we all know that one day we're going to have to face it. So we had only one state cemetery, and now we have, in the last 10, 15 years, we've opened 2. We're looking at a 4th one. So I know many, we're all here in Northern Virginia, and we know Arlington and all that, but Arlington has some very restrictive requirements on who can be buried there. We have 3 state cemeteries, one in Suffolk, one in Amelia, and one in Dublin. Okay, and if they are very well kept. We get top grades from the VA every time they do the inspections, and that's a benefit that every veteran has. So I've given you the summary of our line of businesses. We cover a lot of other areas, whether it is state tuition for our service members, whether it is getting a veteran identifier on the driver license that you all, thanks to their vote this year, from now on, now you go to the DMV, you will have the option to have in your Virginia driver license a veteran identifier, and I brought some handouts on to that effect. So there is a whole area that we're working with, and I look forward to your questions. To sum it up, I can tell you that every one of these members is working day in and day out for the benefit of our military families and our veterans, and I'm very proud of the service that each of you do for my fellow citizens here in Virginia, and the state government is small enough that if you need something, this is not the federal government. I work at the federal government where the bureaucracy is very large. At the state government is small. If you have an idea, we are here to support you. Let me go ahead and introduce team members that are here. First of all, many of you might know her because she's kind of like a native daughter of Prince William, having been the legislative aide to Senator Toddy Puller, but that is Carrie Ann Alford, who is the policy director at the Department of Veteran Services. Carrie Ann. And I also know that we have at the back Ms. Pickard, who's a veteran service representative from the office in Quantico, and she's here. So anybody that needs help, I want you to talk to her at the end of the meeting if there's something that relates to your benefits. And I also go ahead.
Because I have a cohort in crime who made his way through the floods and everything else out there.
One team, one fight. Here we go.
This is Norris Henderson, and Norris is actually at our brand new Manassas office. Thank you, delegates.
There you go. Remember I told you we had 15 and now we have 30, now we have an office in Manassas.
So now Norris will cover kind of the Manassas, Shanesville, that area, Atmore, Woodbridge, Dumfries, Quantico. But also thank you, delegates, because I have a brand new veteran service admin person who answers my phone like you wouldn't believe, and I really appreciate it.
Good. There you go. That's your vote and your engagement and your tax dollars at work. And I also have from the department, remember that I spoke to you about Virginia Veterans and Family Support. I have somebody, Rachel Lynn is here from the Springfield office. She came down for Springfield. Thank you for being here. Good. So I think on that note, Mr. Senator and
No, thank you.
Delegates.
Thank you, Deputy Secretary, for that sort of broad overview of all the work that you do and your staff, so thank you for being here. The address for the Manassas office is 9300 West Courthouse Road, and we're really excited to see the new office openings. Many of you are probably familiar with the Fairfax office or others. Getting more localized is really what this team has done in really just a short time. The last couple of years has really seen tremendous expansion because of what we heard was, we've got to travel over an hour to go see a specialist, and now it's really encompassing wraparound services, the holistic viewpoint. And if you haven't had a chance to go out and meet with these staffs, because they're fantastic experts. And when he says that they have access in to know where cases are at and are tremendous advocates, and I've seen it in action for some of my constituents. And so a hearty thank you for the work that all of your staff does every day. And with that, what we'd like to do is we have a number of questions, so we'll open up with questions. We're going to try to work through it. If you could state your name, sort of what area you're from, and then the question, that would be great. And also, I know we have a couple of also service organizations here, Nova Vets, thank you for being here. Also, Several Willing Warriors at Bull Run Mountain, which does great work, and I'm probably missing a few others. So there's actually some great resources that are doing great work in our community that are here tonight. So please also make sure that we network after this and exchange information. So with that, I'd love to open up for questions.
You guys are doing a lot of great things, first of all. I do have a question about a program called IDAS, the Integrated Disability Evaluation System. My name is Hala Osborne. I served in the Marine Corps as well. My husband served in the Marine Corps, although the son is currently serving right now.
Can you stand up?
So the question I have is, there's a lot of emphasis placed on TAP, and TAP is an excellent program, but IDAS is a program where military service members may be found unfit for duty and are subsequently then processed to be pushed out prematurely before the end of their contract. With that said, for about 230 days to 295 days, they are in limbo. Nobody really gives them any answers. They don't really have, not that they can't call a VSO, but if they don't have that knowledge that they can, or someone that they know who's been through it, who knows a VSO, who they can call, or even anybody they can speak to, that young service member, their family is stressed, they're stressed, and there really is no emphasis placed on the critical side of that type of program. And I'd really like to see the state maybe look at how they can partner with IDAS, even if it's to, give out seminars, answer questions, link them with resources like some of the ones that you mentioned here, because that to me, if I was a service member, I signed up for 4 years, I'm married, I have 3 kids, all of a sudden 2.5 years in, I'm being told I'm getting out, but I don't hear anything and I'm lingering for 230, 295 days, it can be a very, very stressful time, and they're not thinking TAP right away because, again, they're in this process that's completely separate from TAP. So that's just something I would like for the state to consider as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Great question. This is an issue of what we call pre-separation, or some other people call it inside the fence, because you're still with your DOD CAC card, so you're still not on the VA system and you're still not out. What we've done is we have something called the Virginia Military Advisory Council, and we meet every 4 months. We bring the 30 installation commanders and we give them a lot of information, and we've had some great relationships, whether it's Navy Regional Mid-Atlantic, as I indicated, we were just at the change of command in Quantico, so we know the installations very well. I appreciate the information because we've been trying to get our teams into the installation. Remember, there's some requirements by DOD on who can go in. There's some programs that we're already able to do in advance. The Army has something called Soldier for Life. There's something called the Skill Bridge Initiative that allows for the transition in one. I appreciate your information with respect to this program of separation. What I will do is I'll get it. We'll look at the numbers. We'll look whether they're housed in any specific place. Like in the last administration, Governor McAuliffe said, I want to have a Wounded Warrior reception in the mansion. But you bring me wounded warriors that are going through it. So we went ahead and got engaged with Fort Belvoir, because there is a warrior transition unit there, and we brought them to the mansion. The first family gave them a barbecue. Well, that led to something else, by the way. When it was time to go visit the mansion, some of them were in wheelchair, some of them did not have limbs. They realized they could not go into the mansion because they had stairs. Yes. Indeed, they told, well, you can go in, there's an elevator downstairs at the back, through the kitchen, and in. First Lady was furious. So that has led to a ramp, very beautiful, respecting the history of our great governor's mansion. There's a ramp through the side that brings you into the first floor. Okay, so that shows that these conversations lead to results. Oh well, what I'm trying to say is this is a key issue for us on the transition side. We've been getting into the bases in advance. I'd like more information on that program so that we can connect, and we probably can let those commanders know, to let their commands know that for those in transition, we might be able to offer services even before they separate. By the way, we don't discriminate. You come in, you wore the uniform, we don't ask you what your discharge characterization of service was. We don't ask you whether you live and you pay taxes in Virginia or you don't. You're a veteran, we're here to serve you. Blue? At the back, sir, with the blue hats, yourself.
Thank you for what you've presented. My name is Bill Schneider. I'm the second vice commander of the American Legion post in Remington. We cover southern Fauquier County, and a lot of our members are retired. And one of the problems that we run into and we're currently dealing with is spouse employment. I know there's a lot of talk at the federal level of programs for helping military spouses to gain employment. Are there any state programs that we can access when we're helping our members and the veterans in our area to help them find employment? That's my first question.
You want to take that one first?
Yes, please.
Great question, Commander. Indeed, the number one topic for the next General Assembly session for us is what else, if anything, we can do. Believe me, the First Lady, Pam Northam, she's a former military spouse. She had to go through licensure. So, we came over to visit Quantico, as a matter of fact, to visit the great elementary school for their military child week. We came over and I traveled with her, and we spent the whole trip talking about military spouse employment. You're correct. At the federal level, Senator Kane has a very strong lead and program on what the feds can do for employment. At the state level, we are looking at what we can do. But let me tell you a couple of things that we've already done. Number one, each of these members voted for the first time in Virginia history. We have done the following. If you're a military spouse and you come to the Commonwealth of Virginia and you have a teacher's license from out of state, you can go straight into our schools to teach. First time in Virginia history that we don't require a substantial equivalency test. So kudos to them, because the first thing we've done is to allow every military spouse to be a teacher if you come from out of state with a license. Number one. Number two, it's funny because that was the biggest hole we had. If you look at all the professions that we regulate under the department, DPOR, or Professional Occupational Regulation, or under the Department of DHP, Department of Health Professions, or even through the State Bar, we have in Virginia one of the most proactive, open, expedited reciprocity and incoming licensure for military spouses. Okay? At this time, there's pretty much, one profession that is excluded. So we're looking at what we can do. So there's already legislation from the General Assembly, there has been, and it's signed, to make sure that it's expedited, to make sure you get concierge service, so it's asked when you come from out of state. So on the licensure side, we have done it. We are looking at other ideas. It is a critical aspect that we need to attack, because by now, remember, we don't serve. My family is serving. My kid is serving, because when I go to drill or I deploy, my kid is staying behind, and the whole family is serving. So that is a critical aspect for retention, for morale, and we have some ideas. We have some ideas about, I don't want to get ahead of myself because it hasn't gone through policy, the governor, so that they can decide whether they want it or not. But how about an employment grant to hire a military spouse? That's an idea we're looking at, but it's early on, so that's what I would say.
We also had, I think, $1.9 million for troops to teachers at William and Mary. It's a program also that's helping to bridge some of those issues. There's a second question.
My second question, I'll keep it short. Along with the military spouses, we have a lot of retirees in Southern Fauquier County. Virginia is one of the very few states that still taxes military retirement pay. What's on the docket to have that improved? Thank you.
Great question. It's probably the question that I get the most. Admiral Harvey said, Jaime, I ain't gonna look at that because I'm a retiree myself. I said, well, I'm not, sir, so I'm gonna look at it. So we've been working at it for 4 years. We've commissioned 2 studies on it. I wish I had that piece of paper, but I'll share it with you. Let's make sure we exchange cards. But let me tell you what's happening. Virginia is an income tax state. A lot of our funding comes from income tax, number one, at the state level. Number two, we're a very strong education state. I'm seeing my friend, the acting chairman of the school board here in Prince William, Dr. Babur Latif, and I know we spend a lot in education. So a lot of our families want to be here to educate their kids, and we have a lot of great benefits at the college level for our military kids too, and all that. What I say by that is when we've looked at it, it would create a hole to exempt of $160 million in the state budget. So the issue that we have, it's that one. Let me tell you another piece of information. Virginia already gets 7% of every retiree in the nation comes to Virginia. We are one of the top locations for retirees. Why? We would say that we're military friendly. We have jobs for retirees after they leave service. But when you have that cost, when you have the fact that you're already very successful, and then we've looked at something else. We've looked at, okay, how much would 5% of your taxable state income of that amount, it's really taxes? Well, if you're an 06 and above, it's $5,000, $4,000 or $5,000. But if you are an 04 or an E6, E7 and below, we've looked and it reflects around $1,500 a year in taxes. So, and I would love to share that chart that says what is the real tax of Virginia on retirement and share it with you. The fact is that as an administration, we haven't seen, other than exempting it for the benefit of the veteran, we haven't seen a way to open that door in it. The JLC, which represents a lot of the VSOs, including yours, they met today. They're trying to look for a stagger approach forward, whether to do a percentage of it. So the bottom line is we haven't been able to crack that nut because it is, one, very costly, and two, if you're sitting in their chairs, they're saying, what do I get for that money? Because they have other choices on how to use the money. What do I get for that money? Because a lot of those veterans are already coming and staying in the Commonwealth. So I see the argument for it is, hey, we served, we want our retirement to be exempt. Well, so does the police officer, so does the teacher, so does the state employee that is retired. So it is a complex issue. Believe me, if we can find a way to crack it, we will. Delegate Torian, please.
Just want to share with you that during this past session, I introduced some legislation to address the very issue that you're talking about. And right now, currently, recipients of the Congressional Medal of Honor are the only ones who are exempt. So my legislation, I wanted a joint study done by the Department of Veteran Service and Department of Taxation to take a look at the study and to come back to us and tell us how we can make this work and how it is going to adversely impact the state budget, how so, and how can we recruit and recover that money. I plan to introduce my bill again in January because I think it's very important. You served our country, then you should have the benefit of having income exempt, and we need to figure out how to do it in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Just to dovetail one more thing. So as the policy director for DVS, I manage two of our state boards, the Joint Leadership Council of Veteran Service Organizations, the JLC, which the Deputy Secretary mentioned. They looked at this last year, they looked at it this year. They're looking at two different issues. One is a phase-in approach, as the Secretary mentioned. Another one that Delegate Miares from Virginia Beach has been working on for several years that they are supporting is really getting the income tax exemption for disabled veterans, certain disabled veterans within a certain income band to have fully exempted income tax pay. And we actually finally just 2 weeks ago got from the VA a hard estimate of how many veterans that would help in Virginia. It's just about 1,400 veterans, so we think now with that good estimate that we can get that bill through the money committees. But we do have to justify every time we have a bill that affects tax revenues, we have to tell the Senate Finance Committee and the Appropriations Committee exactly who else, who should not be getting that money if veterans are getting this benefit. And so it's a balancing act in trying to find the money in the budget. So we're working on different things. The VFW JLC rep is Dan Boyer. He lives down in Galex. He's a wonderful man. He is your representative to the JLC if you are part of the VFW. You should get in contact with him. All of our, you have a JLC website as part of the DVS page. You can Google that and find it. Find out who your reps is for all the different VSOs you are a part of, and get in contact with them. If you need their email addresses, you can contact myself or Jaime. We'll get you their email addresses and phone numbers. They want to hear you. They are your representative to the council that then advocates to DVS, the secretary, the General Assembly, and the governor on your behalf. So the best way for you to, make your issues on this and everything else known and really be involved is to get involved with your VSOs and push all that information up to the JLC.
That's true, although I think you have the best advocates right here in front of you. And the fact that the delegate is telling you what his initiative is shows their intent. Remember, once they pass the laws, we implement them. We're looking at initiatives, but hey, here you can see that they're thinking like you are, that this is a real concern. But remember, there's a cost and benefit analysis that they need to take into account too. Ma'am, and then I'll go back there. I'll go back there and I'll go here.
Good evening, Mr. Secretary. Thank you for being here. The question I have is my name is Andrea Bailey, and I am a resident here in Prince William County, living in the Potomac District. But I am also a veteran's wife of 23 years in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for service.
And so I applaud your efforts and our delegation's efforts in having the sensitivity to the needs here in our community. One thing that I want you to tell us about is the enhancements that have been made also in terms of mental health as it applies to the veteran. Because, we go to war, and our children are here as they go to war, and that's important as well from a holistic standpoint.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service and that of your family. This is a critical area. We've all lived through it. If you've been a vet, if you've mobilized, if you've gone downrange, if you're in a veterans or a military family, we see the external cost, and I call it the internal cost, the internal wounds. Many of them you don't measure because you don't see them. Many of them take some time in coming out, but we've seen them, and it's such a non-measurable economic, incredible human cost that our veterans and our families are doing. Is there anything specific that you want to speak on behalf of BVFS? Because I will tell you what we've done. What we've done on the BVFS area is we're a few that were connected at the community boards. We did not have a unity of training. We did not have a unity of command. And in working with the General Assembly after a large study, we were able to bring them all into the fold. Now we have training. We just had we had all of them together with the benefits in Williamsburg for a conference. The governor spoke to them, explained to them how critical this job is for all of us, and we train them because we have to train our caregivers, and we also have to take care of our caregivers. So I will go ahead and let her say from her perspective what she's seen within BVFS, but I will tell you that BVFS has moved up a notch in training, in offices. They're co-located with many of the benefits offices. So when you go see benefits and you have that need, we don't need to tell you, go to a different office. Yeah. We'll walk you over to our BVFS reps. So now we have 30 benefits offices, and I think we have 23 locations of BVFS. Some of them co-located with benefits, but this is an area that the General Assembly has recognized and invested. Anything you'd like to share?
Good evening. So part of my role is to work with not only the veterans, the service members, transitioning service members, their families, but my goal is to connect them overall to resources that are in the community. So we do have the ability to connect with contracted clinicians. So if a veteran or their family member is unable to pay for services, so they don't have insurance, they don't feel comfortable going to the VA, there's a barrier in going to the VA, such as long appointment times, long wait times, they can't get to a vet center. We can actually provide services through contracted clinicians that we partner with in the community for them. We also do connect to other community partners. such as like nonprofits or other resources that provide mental health care. So we do have a lot of resources that are available to help veterans or their family members that deal with mental health and trauma. So it can be for children as well. It can be for those that are on the spectrum. It just depends on what the needs are. So if you know anybody that's going through a hard time, please refer them to me. My business cards are on the table and I can get you connected to at least a resource to start with.
If I might jump in here. I'm George Parker, this is the State Senate. We in Virginia have made huge investments in mental health services over the last 4 or 5 years. There's a commission, it's called the Deeds Commission, chaired by Senator Bree Deeds, whose son attacked him, almost killed him, and then committed suicide in 2013. That led to the creation. And we have, over the last several years, started totally revamping our mental health system. So by the time we're finished, and hopefully within 3 to 4 years, we will be have it pretty much wrapped up. We will have a system that is much more responsive to the individual in the community to provide whatever services are needed. Part of the problem we've had in the past is that the funding levels from both the state and the local governments were not enough to be able to take care of everybody. And Prince William was one of the places where we saw that in spades here. In Prince William County, just a couple of years ago, if you had a mental health problem, you called up and said, I got a mental health problem, I'd like to be seen, you would get put on a waiting list. And the chances were, unless you went into a crisis, you would never get off that waiting list. What we are doing now is we are turning that around so that if you call up and say, I have a problem and I need to be seen, you will be seen that day, or if it's late in the afternoon, you'll be seen the next day. Get an evaluation, and a treatment plan will be set up for you to get you the services you need. We've had too many people that have had problems that didn't get treated, and then they ended up in a crisis situation. Hopefully not all of them as bad as what Senator Deeds' son had, but in a crisis situation where they ended up having to be hospitalized. We pay for those at the state level when they go into the hospital. Many of them go to state hospitals. What we're doing now is restructuring it so they get the services so that they hopefully in most situations don't ever have to get in the hospital, and then we're developing the housing services to help them when they get out. So we are making major efforts to provide services within the community, and it's already starting to make a difference here in Prince William. So we're going to keep at it. Last year we added over $50 million to the budget for mental health services. This year was another $85 million that we put in.
Will the folks from Server Willing Warriors stand up, please? Okay, so this is a group out in Haymarket. I was really proud as the reporter for the Anvil Times to name you all our Citizens of the Year when you guys first opened up. And this is a phenomenal organization that actually directly deals with a lot of veterans who are dealing with PTSD, who are dealing with a lot of different mental health issues. I would highly, highly, highly recommend that if you know anyone in the greater Prince William County area who could use their services, please get in touch with Server Willing Warriors. They're a fantastic organization built straight from the ground up out of complete love for this community. And they're located in an extremely scenic, beautiful part of Haymarket, so it's a great place to go.
So VVFS works with Server Willing Warriors. We also work with Boulder Crest, which is also here in Northern Virginia in Loudoun County. We have specific teams within VVFS who do specific crisis intervention training with law enforcement, independent cities, our county and state police, training them on how to interact with a veteran in crisis when they come across them, and also then get them into our veteran dockets that we have going around the state. Prince William is currently standing their docket up, hopefully. I'm looking at Rich Anderson, hopefully within the next few months to a year. We'll have that service for you all. 2 years ago, an idea was brought to me. University of Southern California has a military concentration master's in social work program. Through a lot of work of a lot of people, I am now working with William & Mary and George Mason to replicate that program. USC has been phenomenal. They said this is not a zero-sum game. There's no proprietary information. We will help you set that up. So if you have ideas, you are in the community, you see the veterans every day. If you see a hole, a gap, please let your delegates and your senators know. You can call me. We will work together to figure out the best way to turn that into legislation. You have phenomenal delegation here in Prince William. We have a member of the Senate Finance Committee, a member of House Appropriations, We have some phenomenally well-respected delegates here and senators here in Prince William County. So bring your good ideas to them. That's how they get legislation. It doesn't, just kind of fall from the sky. They get good ideas from you all.
So I know we're going to have a lot more questions, so we're going to try to speed up each response. And if we don't have a complete answer, because we have about a half hour, so I know there's lots of questions, so we want to get it through. And then I also know Delegate Torian has to step out in a few minutes for another obligation, so I know he wants to hear some questions as well. So I know he had an order up front and then up front here, correct?
I'm switching my M16 to semi-automatic, so here we go. I think I'll go back to the lady first, because I remember her from last time.
Hi.
And then I'll go to you, sir.
I'm Janelle Davenport. I'm with Heroes Bridge. We're a nonprofit organization. We're out in Fauquier County, Rappahannock, and Culpeper. We assist our older veterans, our 65 and over, our World War II, our Korean, our Vietnam veterans. And one of the things that we're seeing a huge issue with is because our veterans are older, they're all in rural areas. Some have families nearby, majority of them don't. A lot of them are homebound. They're not able to drive. These are veterans that they did their service, served during wartime. They came out and they got civilians jobs. They got insurance. They got coverage and everything in the civilian jobs. Now they're dealing with health issues, financial issues, and they have no VA benefits. And we're having to assist them to get VA benefits. Norse, we've been playing phone tag for a while, and Pat out of the Manassas office have been great trying to help us. But where we're finding the issue and where we need funding is getting VA reps that can do home visits. I have, either both the spouse and the veteran are homebound, or the spouse, I have a couple that are, this veteran is bedbound. The spouse is the only caretaker. She can't leave. They don't have family nearby, or they all live, everyone's dispersed out around. And I would love to see funding to get more VA reps that can go and do these home visits to help these veterans get their VA benefits that they earned and deserve.
Thank you. Let's take that a note, check on the federal VA, check internally. Do you want to say anything about that, Ms. Speaker? Speak up.
I wanted to say we definitely can help a veteran in his home. What we can't do is policies that I cannot go by myself, but I can have my admin guy go with me. I can work it out with Norris where he can come from Manassas, I can come from Fauquier. So I would not say they're necessary. This is just me. I don't think we necessarily need more money. You just have to make your DVS representative know that there's a person homebound. As a rule, I go to assisted living facilities easily, I would say 12 months a year, and file a non-service connected pension or a widow's pension. Because in an assisted living, the state feels I'm safe to be in a common area, which I totally agree with. And in a home, again, we just have to have a little more time because we have to work it out to have a co-worker with us. We can't close Manassas, we can't close Quantico, but we could do that.
That's outstanding. Let's go ahead and take care of the people you know, and if you get into any issues, you let us know. Sir?
I feel a little guilty. I don't have a crisis. I just have a practical problem. I'm a Vietnam vet. I've put together a disability request, and I don't know what to do with it. I'm looking for someone who might be able to counsel me on looking at what my claims are. And
Perfect. You have the right person at the back. She'll meet with you. Let me tell you, I know people that have gone to see them, and I am getting ready tomorrow morning to send a note up the chain to the governor, because the person that went to see them was like, I was so impressed by the service I got. So I want you to get the same experience. That's the lady you need to liaise with, and if you still have a doubt after you see her, then you'll get back to us. Well,
okay, thank you.
thank you, sir.
I may have a crisis later.
Hopefully not.
Deputy Secretary, thank you for your service, sir. Myself, my wife, we're currently active duty stationed at the Pentagon. She's got 16 years in, I've got 25 years in. Lieutenant Colonel Major, we're proud to serve our nation. Right now, we're just really blessed to be here and see the turnout here with everyone, how much care and concern. Sir, thank you for bringing up a very touchy topic with suicide. As everybody knows, there's, one suicide is one too many, over 20 a day. That's unacceptable. And we work with a nonprofit called Reboot Combat Recovery. And it's not just for folks that are veterans that have gone to combat. It's any trauma. The soldiers, young soldiers, active duty, killing themselves, National Guard reserves today, haven't hardly deployed. Most of, I see those reports every week. they haven't deployed. It's the day-to-day life struggles. It's the relationships. It's finances. It's family issues. It's not the combat. It's the day-to-day difficulties. So we are here as a resource. We just finished a program, 12-week course at Fort Belvoir for 6 veterans, and changed our life and changed their life too. So if you need help, it's nonprofit. So we provide free daycare, free food. All you gotta do is show up.
I don't know where to start thanking you, but I'll start with the 41 years of service you both have done combined. I'll continue by telling you.
See me after. I have flyers here and I have business cards, so just come see me right after.
Thank you for being in Prince William. Thank you for being in Virginia. The second issue, other than spouse employment, that we're attacking head on is veteran suicide. Richmond is the only city east of the Mississippi, and one out of every only 6 cities that are doing right now an initiative for best practices. We just had a meeting 2 days ago, going through a 6-month process to try to do what we did in homelessness, which we were able to end veteran homelessness, attacking with best practices, multi-front, Department of Health, DBHS, all the different agencies, local police, looking for ways of what we can do, because I agree with you, one is too many. Thank you for your service. Who was my next person? Sir. And I'll go back there.
Hey, my name is,
I'll go back there. I need you right next time.
My name is Darnell. I was just wondering, was there like some type of link between the state and the VAs? Because what I've noticed a lot of is there's not a lot of transparency with the VA. When benefits and things come up, none of us hear about it unless someone tells them, like word of mouth. But there are so many things coming out, even like with education benefits that I've learned just by Googling or researching or giving them calls. Is there a way, like for instance, like I've only been out for like 3 years, and I found out with the Montgomery GI Bill that I came in under, I was ordered to Post 911. But then I found out that once I topped out my Post 911, I can get that refund from my Montgomery. And that's a lot of things. A lot of people I've figured out did not even know that, had never even been told that. So is there like a rep or somebody on the state level that can be that liaison with the VAs around to get information pushed out to us? Things like policy changes, things we don't even hear or know about, because we're never knowing things that are going on.
So the quick answer for you is the following. Your VSRs are your reps. Okay, every one of you should have gone to see a VSR. If you haven't, schedule a visit. In one of those 30 offices, we have one right here in Manassas, we have one brand new one in Fairfax, we have one brand new one in Fredericksburg. So if you haven't seen a veteran service representative in one of our DVS benefits offices, please schedule yourself, okay? By the way, I would put them against anybody. They're the best trained. They are trained completely as, I would say, better than the VA, because they do the VA training and then we give them training. And their computers have the same access that somebody in VA does. So if you want to know information, or if you want to have a good advocate, your VSR at the benefits office is the person for you.
But can I just say thank you for that suggestion? We have an e-newsletter for the agency. You can sign up for it. That kind of information is not usually on there, but I'm going to take that to the commissioner. You can go to our website, dvs.virginia.gov, scroll down to the bottom, sign up for our newsletter, and I will take that to commissioner, add that kind of thing to our newsletter.
Good evening. I'm Angela McConnell, President and CEO of the Northern Virginia Veterans Association. I work with many of you here, Heroes of Bridges. I'm going to get with you. My issue I brought up with Senator McPike briefly, Senator Barker in the past as well briefly, and all goes back to potentially suicide prevention, getting the veterans the benefits and the care they've earned and deserved. One of the things I've noticed in one of our initiatives within the association is to train civilian healthcare providers on how to assess and treat a military or a veteran patient. They really do not have the education, and if you got out with only 5 or 10 or 15 years in and you don't have a TRICARE insurance or some kind of insurance to let that physician know that you were a veteran, most of them don't ask the question. They don't say, hey, you're a veteran, where did you serve? Or hey, you're a veteran spouse, where did you and your family serve? To see if maybe you have Agent Orange poisoning, if you worked around the burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan, if you were at Camp Lejeune, as a family during that time where they had that water toxicity. If you're a veteran and you come in with symptoms of bronchitis or some other kinds of blood issues and lung issues, and you're your doctor doesn't know that you were a veteran and where you served, then they're not going to know to refer you to the VA. They're not going to know to refer you to the state. And what I suggest, and what I want to talk maybe with some of you later on, is a program similar to V3. I worked with the Bartos early on before that became a state program, and teaching and educating our doctors throughout Virginia would be able to get our veterans, into the system and get them the benefits they've earned, if not at the state and the federal level, at least within the local resources that we have so many of here in Virginia, because, like you said, we are a wonderful state for helping our veterans.
Well, nobody better than the governor, who's a doctor and a veteran, so I look forward to looking into that, because that's a critical aspect. Cultural competency it's critical. One of the things we're hoping that the driver license identifier, when the police stops you, or when you're in a hospital and the ID card that you show up is your driver license, it'll say veteran prominently on the top right.
The doctor needs to know to ask.
No, I know, it's just
it's just one more thing.
Multi-aspect. Back there, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Victor Angry. I'm currently a technician with the Dell City Volunteer Fire Department, but before that, it's a 23-year Army Command Sergeant Major. I just want to say that Senator McPike actually was my captain, my first captain in the fire department, Captain McPike, and he actually trained me to be this guy I am today. So that just proves 2 points. You can't teach your little dog new tricks, and Sergeant Majors are trainable. But what I just want to talk about today is just some issues with service in the fire department. Being a volunteer firefighter has actually helped me tremendously in my post-military career, because coming out of the military was very difficult. My brother's a VA rep, and realizing that not all PTSD is about wartime and just about all of that. That leaving the military is a traumatic episode in itself. So I didn't realize a lot of things I was dealing with until I got a letter in the mail, as we would say in the Army, that actually talked about joining the fire department. And so I became a volunteer. And what I've learned in that process is there are a lot of my brothers and sisters who are volunteer firefighters. And what we have in common is purpose. We redefine our purpose in life, which is always just helping, because that's what we do. So I wanted to make that aware, because in my time in the fire department, I see a lot of deaths due to drug overdose and opioid addiction, and it's a lot of veterans, and a lot of that issue has stemmed in talking to I tell you what, I would write that down and get it back to
You know it.
I know it.
Good night, safe. Drive safe, be safe.
I gotta go. I'll go back there, sir.
My name is Steven Stenks. I'm an Air Force veteran in Stafford. Going back to Bill's question earlier, a lot of the legislation or efforts look good at first when it comes to employment of spouses, but when you looked at the fine print, it's a raw deal. For example, I'm following my wife up here to Quantico, who was an attorney in Florida. It's just this great guest attorney thing until you read the fine print and realize by the time you spend all the time and all the money meeting all of their rigorous qualifications, I might as well have taken the Virginia bar. So it's about, are you really making it easier, or are you making it look like you are making it easier? There's a difference between the two.
I'll tell you this, great question, because that's one in which the secretary and I have gone at it. We're both attorneys, okay? I took the Virginia, I'm in 4 states, but I took the Virginia bar. I couldn't waive in the sense that I couldn't do the one there. I really believe, from everything I gather, and I wrote a 10-page memo in January for the secretary. I really believe that we're doing it much easier in every profession, and that the only one that is challenging is the law, because you have a state bar of Virginia that regulates. Indeed, we were talking about this, Carrie Ann and I, the other day, because I said, hey, there is a requirement that you work under the supervision of a Virginia attorney. So the secretary was saying, hey, you cannot open your own shingle. I said, that's true, but in most states you cannot even get a job because you're not barred. So I hear you. Let's talk about it, because I want to hear your experience better as we do it. Once again, I hope, from an administration perspective, I hope that what the General Assembly did this year of allowing teachers to come in from out of state to serve in Virginia without having to go through a licensure, that they will be willing to expand it to other areas. but that's going to be decided by the General Assembly in the future. And that area, I can assure you, we made it easier. If you were a teacher before, you could not teach in Virginia unless you would go through the whole licensure process. With one law, this delegates and senators have allowed that out-of-state spouse to come in and get a job immediately. So I think we are making it better. Who else I have? Yes, Commander.
Joanne Smoot. You've addressed the employment issue of skilled labor, teachers, attorneys, et cetera, et cetera. What about the unskilled, the common laborer, the spouse that doesn't have that master's degree or PhD or the law degree or whatever, but just is your everyday run-of-the-mill, works at Home Depot or whatever? What about them?
Well, I'll get Carrie Ann here, but in the meantime, I'll tell you, hey, that is, apprenticeship and credentials are critical aspects. Right here in Quantico, we're having a great connection on the cyber world with George Mason. I can tell you that Newport News Shipbuilding is hiring 3,000 welders. So I know it's not close to here. We're looking at that area too. Carrie Ann.
Yeah, so you all get to be the first in the state to know this, and the details are still being worked out. But we have had a couple of unions approach our VTAP, our Virginia Transition Assistance Program folks, and myself on exactly this. What do we do with the enlisted folks who maybe want to use their GI Bill, but they need a job first, maybe they don't want to go to school, they just want to get a job and take care of their family. So we're looking at several different opportunities. Also partnering with the great apprenticeship programs that Governor McCall set up and Governor Northam is continuing. But we are working with, we've been having conversations with the laborers with LIUNA and also with the carpenters as well to try to figure out how to get veterans in Virginia into some of those skilled but not education heavy
non-veteran spouses.
You're talking spouses, so.
Spouses, yeah, of veterans.
So once again, this is one area where we're.
Her husband is not.
This is one area where we need to see what else we can do. So if you have ideas, I definitely want to talk to you as you go through those. I do know that in all Fort Monroe, there is a business which is 100% military spouse employment. So I know there's some cocoons. If you have ideas of how to help spouses that do not have degrees into the market, I already told you one, which is somewhat of an employment grant, and that would work in that area too. But if you have others, I definitely would like to hear on that front. Okay, Sergeant Major, you're back.
I'm back. Another engine took that call, so we were good. And I really don't have a question, just more of a statement. I'm just going to get to it before we get another call real quick. I think there is a home for veterans who still want to continue service and a volunteer fire assistant as a first responder. And just I can tell you a really quick story. I was in the gym back in October. A gentleman came up to me, told me he didn't feel well, fell in my arms and died, had a heart attack. Did CPR, he's alive today. And what I learned, but just what I learned from that process is that, we always talk about taking lives and the lives we take and the military service, that's kind of what we do. There is no joyous feeling than saving someone's life. Right. I mean, just to be a part of that process is like a healing piece in itself. And I think there's an opportunity there for a lot of vets that are going through a lot of issues with doing something that's very rewarding that actually, it makes you feel good about yourself. So I wanted to leave you with that. I hadn't seen a real push on that, and I just think we could do a better job with getting the word out to veterans about, services in a volunteer system. And that doesn't just have to be in the fire department. It can be as a lifeguard. It can be in the church. I mean, there's so many volunteer opportunities for veterans, to actually have an opportunity to give back to their communities. That's what we do.
I think that might be another vignette for our e-newsletter. Show what the Senator and the Sergeant Major have done on the. So,
we're still joint and purple in this world. So my uncle is Mr. Air Force Simon Corbin, and I want to chime him in real quick to get him in.
Good afternoon. Good evening. Yeah, my name is Simon Corbin. I'm the lieutenant, and for the Command Sergeant Major here. I am a veteran as well, the United States Air Force. Became a firefighter straight out of high school, then off to college, then on to law school, now I'm a lawyer, and an analyst at the State Department, and a volunteer firefighter. Vic was talking about the opportunities that there are for veterans in the fire service, but in order for that to work, in order for that to be there, we have to have a volunteer fire department. In Prince William County, the Prince William Volunteer Fire Service is under attack. The career DFR chief here is putting forth an effort to oust volunteers out of our volunteer fire service, and his proposal here will add is to add to our to replace the high quality professional fire rescue and EMS services provided by Prince William County volunteers every day, as we have since 1938, with the services provided by the paid fire department, paid DFR personnel. This is not a jab at my paid my paid DFR brethren, but this proposal put forth by their fire chief calls for the elimination of the volunteer fire service and replacement of those services that we provide with inferior services that will close and shutter volunteer basic life support ambulances to the tune of about $15 million per year. The downside of that is that what it does is it adds, of course, it'll add to patient transport times, particularly those who are at their most sick, particularly the elderly, including veterans and their spouses. And the reason why this is happening is because the DFR chief and the Board of County Supervisors isn't listening to Prince William volunteers, which is why I need your help. What I need you to do is to let your county supervisor know about, I've actually got 4 things, pardon my phone. 4 things. Truly, 1, that you support Prince William County volunteers, Prince William County volunteer firefighters. 2, that you don't think it is smart or fiscally responsible to replace our services with inferior services to the tune of an additional $15 million per year. C, 3, that a true combination of fire and rescue services, which seamlessly integrates the paid and volunteer services, is really the model that provides the best fire, rescue, and EMS services in Prince William County. And that lastly, a true combination of fire and rescue system is in the interests of the men and women, the families and businesses of Prince William County.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're closing down on time, so I want to respect everyone's time. We do have a Veterans Day Parade coming up. Mr. Riley, you want to make a quick announcement on that?
Thank you very much. Mike Riley, 31-year Marine Corps veteran. And a life member of this post. Every year we have a annual Veterans Day Parade. And this year is the 100th anniversary of the American Legion. And as you American Legion people know, Brett Wrightstaff from Virginia is going to be the national commander. So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on this parade from the American Legion. And we'd like to think that the Northern Virginia Veterans Parade could be the parade that the government would like to put on, and we'd like everybody to come to our parade on the 3rd of November. So if you're interested in participating, we'd love to have service organizations there. All veterans are invited to march in the parade. Some of you have been there before. Senator McPike comes every year with his bright red Jeep. I'm sorry, your Jeep. But I have information, so I don't take your time. But we'd love to have everybody from here be in this parade on the 3rd of November. Thank you.
It's a great parade in Manassas, so see Mike for that. And I wanted to thank everyone for your time, and Carrie Ann's shaking something at me, so.
So the DMV gave me a lot of these handouts for y'all. This is your little information card about the vet identifier on your driver's license that hopefully you all have heard about. As you will see in the picture, it's very prominently displayed. So, if you have a current vet ID, do you have one? You have yours
I do,
there
actually,
you go.
yeah. As of July 1st, they do this, and it just so happened that that was right around the time that mine expired. So it's this this indicator right here in the top right that says veteran. You just there's a question on the DMV website when you go to renew your license. It says, would you like a veteran indicator? That's if you've already been to the DMV and given them your DD-214. You can just check that box. and they'll send you a new license with the Veterans Indicator. I believe if you don't already have, there used to be a standalone card, then you do have to go to the DMV.
You do not.
You don't. Oh,
So
fantastic.
if you don't have the vet ID card, you will be able to upload a copy of your DD-214. It is a secure website. The only ones who will see it are DMV and us. You will have to check a box allowing DMV to share your information with DVS. That is because our lovely benefits folks will be the one verifying that your DD-214 is accurate and authentic. So if you have a vet identifier card and you want to hang on to it, don't lose it because they're not making any more. But you can keep it if you have one. But moving forward, you will only have the vet identifier on your driver's license. Also, what our lovely DMV folks would remind everybody is starting October 1st, Virginia will start complying with the Real ID law. So if your driver's license doesn't expire until the fall or later, kill two birds with one stone and wait until October 1st and get your new Real ID, which will get you through airports and on military bases, as well as getting your vet identifier.
Like a cat card.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there are resources up here that they brought here for you. The great DVS staff, please make sure you've got the follow-up appointments like our Deputy Secretary talked about, and the resources that are here at the table. We're here for your resources. I wanted to thank our staffs that helped put this together. And the VFW Post 1503 for helping to host us tonight. We'll be available today. Each of us have been working on different things we didn't necessarily speak to specifically. I know Senator Barker has been a great advocate on the V3 program, as well as the transition of paramedics into medical fields and transition, and lots of other things that we've been working on that we didn't speak about tonight that we have interest in as well. So this is not necessarily all-inclusive, so continue to reach out. This area is just a wealth of knowledge and information that helps us to be better at representing this area. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Secretary.